Good morning, all. I'd like to call to order the Public Improvement Commission hearing of October 8th, 2020. The first item on our agenda are the hearing minutes. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of the minutes of the PIC hearing held on September 24th, 2020. Any questions or comments on the hearing minutes? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of the September 4th hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Moving on to the public hearing continued portion. Our first item is on a petition by Charles River Park D Company for the acceptance of pedestrian easement adjacent to the following public ways in Boston proper. The locations are Lomasney Way on the southwesterly side at address number 35 southeast of Martha Road / Nashville Street, and Martha Road on the southwesterly side northwest of Lomasney Way and Nashville Street. This was new business on July 23rd, 2020. At its first public hearing on August 20th, 2020. Had public hearings continued on September 3rd, 2020 and September 24th, 2020. And this is as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Pedestrian Easement Plan, Lomasney Way and Martha Road, Boston, one sheet dated October 2020.
Good morning. Can you guys all see that?
We can.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Food and I'm the construction manager for Equity Residential in Boston, representing the owner, Charles River Park D, for this hearing. I'm also joined by members of Howard Stein Hudson, Niche Engineering, IBI Group, and Johanna Schneider, legal counsel with Hemingway and Barnes, who is currently working with Mr. on the grant of easement and LMI associated with the project. We want to just thank you for your time. I know we've continued a couple hearings here, but appreciate all the correspondence. We're here to review the specific repairs and pedestrian easement associated with the Alcott project, which is formerly known as the Garden Garage or West End Tower, located at 35 Lomasney Way. This is a project that's been underway, under construction for over 2 years now, and on a 45-story residential building with 470 units over a 5-level parking garage with 769 resident and public parking spaces. As we mentioned, we previously in front of the commission in July for new business, and we now have responses from and are coordinated with all city agencies. We're currently in the superstructure phase of the project, expecting to top out concrete just before Thanksgiving, and are getting a phased occupancy next summer. Work associated with these specific repairs will occur next spring and summer. Just turn it over to Chris Hodney with Niche Engineering to talk more about the pedestrian easement.
Thanks, Dan. Share my screen. All right, so can everyone see the pedestrian easement plan on my screen?
We can.
All right, great. So this is a pedestrian easement along Lomasney Way and Martha Road in front of the project. Basically, the existing sidewalk and the proposed sidewalk are on private property, and so this pedestrian easement is just to sort of rectify that situation, give the public rights to move over the sidewalk in front of the building. It's approximately 2,482 square feet, and the width varies. It's from anywhere from 5 foot 9 inches up to about 14 feet. 5 foot 9 on Martha Road and 14 feet on this end by Lomasney Way. And this is just in support of all the other specific repairs, which are the next item on the agenda.
Thanks, Chris. Questions or comments on the pedestrian easement? Todd or Abby?
We're all set on this.
All right. Members of the public?
I don't see any.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion on the first item, the pedestrian easement.
I'll make a motion on a petition of Charles River Park D Company for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement in Lomasney Way and Martha Road as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Moving on to our second item on a petition by Charles River Park D Company for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Boston proper, consisting of curb realignment, roadway and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, specialty pavements, street lighting infrastructure, street trees, planters, landscaping, storm drain infrastructure, street furniture, bike racks, driveway curb cuts, and the removal of traffic islands. The locations are Lamazney Way, generally address number 35, southeast of Martha Road and Nashville Street, Martha Road on its southwesterly side, northwest of Lamazney Way and Nashville Street, Thoreau Path, generally north of William Cardinal O'Connell Way. This was new business on July 23rd, 2020. Had its first public hearing on August 20th, 2020. Had a public hearing continued on September 3rd, 2020. Another public hearing continued on September 24th, 2020. This is shown on two sets of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plan, Lamazney Way, Garden Garage, Lamazney Way Improvements, West End, 3 sheets dated June 12th, 2020, as well as City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repairs Plan, Thoreau Path, West End, 2 sheets dated June 2020. Daniel or Chris? Daniel or Chris, are you presenting on the specific repair plan?
I think Robbie.
Sorry,
Oh, Robbie is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
just launched into it and was muted, so apologize. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your time today and members of the commission. My name is Robbie Burgess from Howard Stein Hudson. I'll be presenting the specific repair plan to the commission today. Mr. Aboud already provided some context, and Mr. Hodney described the pedestrian easement. So I will just begin with the specific repair plan. Hopefully everyone can see my screen right now. Yes. All right.
Yes, we can.
Very good. Real quick for context, Charles River, Zachem Bridge over here, North Station, an earlier image of the project prior to foundation or excavation being completed. You can see Martha Road here, Nashua Street here, Nashua Street here, Lamazney Way, and the GSA building here. I'll start the presentation around the intersection here, and I'll flip over to the specific repair plan now. So this is that point that I just showed on Martha Road in the aerial image, and I'll start in this area and go counterclockwise around the site. This is our first garage entrance exit with the 700 plus space public private garage that Mr. Aboud referenced. Continuing around the front of the site here, we've got street trees, bicycle racks, benches, street lights, curb ramps, etc. Typical street furnishing. And then as we come around the front of the site, we've got approximately 80 feet of pickup drop off here at the front door of the site here, new curb ramps and a new crossing in this area here, as well as new lane markings and a bicycle lane at the intersection. Continuing, towards Causeway Street, we have additional plantings, curb ramps. Our second driveway into the garage. In this area here, we have extended sidewalks to an unused pavement area and converted into sidewalk space. And we have a modification to the existing access for deliveries to the building and underground parking for the West End place. Continuing into the intersection, there is an existing asphalt median here that will be removed to create a left turn lane that will separate left turning vehicles into the loading area, as well as the parking garage from vehicles trying to go through and right. Along with this, we will be proposing a new traffic signal at this intersection to fully signalize, organize the vehicle movements, protect pedestrian movements, and facilitate access and egress from the garage. Earlier meetings with the commission and with various agencies, we strain pole and span wire design, and that was changed to a mast arm design. And that change was coordinated with BTD Signals Department. So, excuse me, continuing around the corner of the GSA building, we are closing this existing crossing here that exists today, and we'll be infilling the wheelchair ramp. And the crossing is now this side, which is a bit more attractive and a bit less of a continuous pavement width here. We are proposing to redo this ramp here and this ramp here. We are proposing not to touch this constructed ramp in this area here that was built as part of the Avalon project a couple of years ago, I believe. Our limit of work on Nashua Street is this area here. We'll loop around and then meet our other limit of work on the other side here and finish in front of 32 Mosney Way, this existing building here. We will be removing the existing cobbles that are here and replacing them with cement concrete sidewalk. We will be replacing existing missing tree grates in this area, which is a coordinated effort with the MassDOT project in this area that has reconstructed some of the wheelchair ramps. We've obtained their design file. We have matched our design powers to theirs so that ideally we'll have a seamless construction of two projects. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So the specific repair plan is accompanied by planting details and our hardscape landscape details, so pretty standard. And the MassDOT project gave us a detail for their tree grade that they're using so that we will match that precisely. So that is the balance of the specific repair plan in front of the project here. I'll turn it back over to Sadni and Mitch, who will describe the specific repair plans on behind the project associated with the road path. And then Mr. Hodney's complete report now, it's up to the commission, we can entertain questions.
Any questions by members of the commission on the sections that Robbie just presented before we get to the throw path portion? All right, Chris, why don't you head into the throw path portion?
Chief, if you could give me a second.
Yep.
Probably have all BTD comments, have you addressed, as our Sven Marson addressed all the BTD comments that has been sent forth to you to the extent that?
There are some outstanding comments related to pavement markings and signage. The balance of, I believe they're all pavement markings and signage related. We received those a little bit late in the process. We're happy to incorporate them, reviewed them. They're not impactful to the project and to the elements that are part of PIC review and approval. And we're asking that we can be approved, assuming that we resolve those comments from Mr. Monticelli that are outstanding.
So to be absolutely clear, you are of the opinion that all the comments that are still requires minor adjustments, they in themselves are not impacting the PIC plans that are being shown and recorded right now. Is that correct?
That is correct. Mr. Monticelli asked that we include a standard detail for a bicycle rack on the PIC plans, which is not shown on the PIC plans currently. So that would be in addition to what you're seeing today. It would be BTD's standard detail for a bicycle, lollipop bicycle rack.
Thank you.
Yeah, BTD is all set. I mean, John submitted comments, but they are striping and signage related. I don't foresee any issues. The only thing that's related to any plans was addition of standard details.
Great. Thank you, Para, Amy, and Robbie. Chris, do you want to take us into throw path?
Sure. All right, so take it everyone can see throw path plan on the screen. So starting with the back, so just a little background on Thoreau Path. It is a public pedestrian way through private property through the west end. So it's not a typical street that we would be seeing at PIC. It's used almost exclusively for pedestrian access behind these buildings and for fire access, if needed. So the existing condition in this location is a concrete sidewalk of varying width in different locations with an existing landscaped island in the middle. We're proposing to essentially change the shape of the island and change the widths of the sidewalks around this island. So today we have approximately a 17-foot and a 14-foot wide pathway through here around this smaller island. We're proposing to have a 6-foot wide and then a 20-foot wide island or walkway instead, and then creating this larger island. There's 2 trees in that island. Those are going to remain. They're still alive. They're in relatively good shape. The fire department asked us to trim them up to 15 feet clear so that their trucks can get through there, and we've committed to doing that. There are also 2 streetlights which will need to just be relocated because they'll be where the new walkway is. So those will just be relocated a few feet from here to here and from here to here to get into the new island. There is, because it's private property, there are a few manhole covers that we're going to have in here with some below-grade storm drainage infrastructure, and then also the finished condition here will have a 20-foot wide concrete path of travel on the top side, and then a 6-foot concrete path of travel on the bottom side.
And Chris, I apologize, can you just remind us why the sort of the path that is getting narrowed to, I think, just 6 feet is getting narrowed to just 6 feet in this location?
Yeah, I think we have IBI on the call, and I think they could speak to that.
Yeah, the path getting narrowed was a reaction to trying to add a little more green space in that area.
Got it. So and I think I'm hopefully oriented correctly. So the path, which is getting broader, that's the one in front of the property, but the overall sort of planting area sort of on the backside of the property is being expanded. And as part of that, there's a slight reduction in the width of Thoreau Path, of one branch of Thoreau Path in application.
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah, and we'll be widening it in one section. So neither one was the 20 feet that the fire department wanted before. Now we're going to have one side that does have that 20-foot width.
Yeah, got it.
Quick question, Todd. To whom does this segment of Thoreau Path belong to? Is it Public Works or is it BPDA?
My understanding is that the fee interest is owned by the BPDA, but this is laid out as a public way.
So has BPDA concurred with the changes that are being proposed over here?
Well, because it's a public way, it's under PIC's sole authority or jurisdiction rather. But BPDA has indeed signed off on this project through the regular PIC process.
Excellent.
So,
Are
yes.
there any immediate abutters to this area that might be impacted by the noise of construction?
I'm sure there are. I can't speak to the outreach that they've done to their abutters regarding their construction practices.
Because when it's the golden, the gentleman from IBI, I don't think he recognized himself, meaning he mentioned his name. Because if there's concerns about from the community, I'm going to assume that this has been vetted through. So is there someone from the design team that can add a statement to that effect?
Hi, Robbie Burgess from HSH. I know that throughout construction, the project team has coordinated with the community, the Weston Place, the Amy Lowell House, and have had regular construction meetings. We can certainly make sure that we have one in advance of this work also. As to in terms of input for the actual plan that's in front of you, I'm not familiar with that. I am familiar with the outreach and engagement with the abutters during construction.
Thank you, Robbie. That's perfect.
Sure.
Other questions or comments from the commission on this portion of the specific repair plan?
Yes, I actually do have one question. On the left side of the page, there are two proposed manholes. Are those both drain manholes?
You're talking about these two right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are actually outside of the right of way, but those are drain manholes. This is our outlet control structure, and then this is one from, there's an underground infiltration system, not shown on this plan, right here.
Okay, and then, so like where you have the dash line, you know, it's like you have like the new path. Is that like manhole gonna be like within the path, or is it?
Yeah, the manhole cover is going to be within the path there.
So it'll have like access to it, full access to it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right. It just, the way it's drawn, it just looks like it's in the way. You know, won't have full access, so that's what I just wanted to ask.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be squeezed between, it'll be in the paved area between these two landscaped areas.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And then as part of the LMI, I assume that the planting area that's sort of embraced by the road path on both sides, is that part of the LMI? Yeah, that area, exactly, Chris.
Sorry, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Right, is that area the new and expanded sort of planting area? Is that included, the maintenance of that included in the LMI?
Yes, my understanding is that this area is included in the LMI, and I think Dan or Johanna could confirm that.
Can someone actually please confirm that? Because Chief, over the years, there has been much debate as to who is responsible for the maintenance of Toro Park, and it has ping-ponged into negotiation. So it will be good for us to know who is responsible for the maintenance of the reconfigured island.
Correct. And we're working through that with Mr. Liu now with the LMI. So we understand that there's some shared responsibility there, and the work that we're doing is kind of taking precedent.
Awesome, Daniel. So we truly appreciate if you could execute that maintenance agreement, which will allow us to finalize these plans with the registry. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Todd or Robbie?
I think we're all set on this.
All right, members of the public?
I see none.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item then.
I make a motion to approve a petition by Charles River Park D Company for specific repairs in the area of Lemaisne Way, Martha Road, and Thoreau Path. There's more particularly read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Yes, thank you.
Moving on to our third item on a petition by Arlington Boylston Realty Trust for the making of specific repairs in the following public ways in Boston proper, consisting of curb and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, specialty pavement, streetlights, street trees, planters, irrigation infrastructure, groundwater, recharge infrastructure, bollards, and driveway curb cuts. The locations of Boylston Street on its southerly side at address number 350 west of Arlington, Arlington Street on its westerly side between Boylston Street and Providence Street, and Providence Street on its northerly side west of Arlington Street. This was new business on September 3rd, 2020, had its first public hearing on September 24th, 2020, and this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repairs Plan, 350 Boylston Street, Back Bay, 7 sheets dated October 2020.
Good morning, John Schmidt here with Niche Engineering, and I believe Barbara's on the line. Anna, could you call up the drawings? Thank you. So we were here for new business about a month ago when we continued the public hearing 2 weeks ago. This is for the renovations to 350 Boylston Street. In the past 2 weeks, we had a very productive conversation with Boston Public Works in regards to the sidewalk design, and I believe at this point we have a design that is compliant with the Boylston Street standards. And so I think we're good to go. If you allow me, I'll walk through the drawings. We're going to replace about 240 feet of sidewalk in front of the 350 Boylston Street building. The sidewalk will be 9.5 feet wide of concrete, poured concrete, and then we have a 5-foot wide pervious paver zone. We do have 2 new street trees that will have a street collar around them, so there will be no tree grates, but the pavers will work their way right up to the tree collar around the tree. We also, on this drawing, you indicate 2 removable round planters near the entrance. And when we submit the Mylars, those will either be placed in the pervious paver zone or they'll be removed from the drawing entirely. But just so everyone is aware, these are not a permanent condition, they're a temporary condition. If you allow, let's go to the next sheet. We'll walk through all the specific repairs if you like, and then we can go back to answer questions.
We need to make a note.
That's great.
Get the Mylar for
On
this
Arlington
project.
Street, we have a concrete sidewalk that's 14.9 feet wide. We're constructing new wheelchair ramps on our corner as well as the opposite corners. And there at this, and if we proceed to Providence Street, along Providence Street, we are replacing about 240 feet of concrete sidewalk. And there'll be as you'll see in a moment, this is where the injection wells will be going. And along Providence Street, we have two entrances. One is for garage and one is for loading docks. And there is a large landing island between the 2 driveways for safe pedestrian egress. And then, so I'm happy to entertain questions regarding specific repairs, and then we can talk about the recharge wells if you'd like.
Any questions or comments on the specific repairs? John just walked through. I appreciate, Barbara, John, everyone's sort of coordination around a design standard for Boylston Street. Thank you for that. Now, do you want to go on to the recharge wells, and then we can see if there's other questions?
Thank you. So on Providence Street, we are proposing 6 recharge wells. Within the building itself, we will have a storage tank that will capture the required stormwater requirement, meets the stormwater requirement, and then the water will be pumped into these injection wells, and then there is an overflow from that into the city's dedicated storm drain.
Thank you so much, John. Questions or comments on the recharge wells or other elements of the specific repair plan?
Oh, hi, John. I was curious where we were on the site plan approval for the groundwater recharge.
Yeah, so we, thank you, Denise. We received comments from your office, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and we have been pushing staff-wise to revise these plans for today's hearing, and resubmitting the BWSC drawings is on our list for next week. So those drawings will be incorporated into a final submission that will be made to Boston Water and Sewer next week.
Okay, great. Thank you, John.
Yep.
Other questions or comments on this? Todd, Robbie?
We're all set.
All right. Any members of the public? Meg Manzer-Cohen from the Back Bay Association, sir.
Good morning, Meg Manzer-Cohen with the Back Bay Association. I just wanted to weigh in support of this project and thank all of you for all the work that you've been doing on this, especially my friend Cara, who's been working on Boylston Street with me for so many years. Thanks for everything that you're doing. We're very much looking forward to this project moving forward. And these improvements will be fantastic for pedestrians on a go-forward basis. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Meg. Other questions or comments from members of the public?
I do not see anyone else.
Okay. John, anything else you want to cover on specific repairs?
That covers the specific repairs. Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion on a petition by Arlington Boylston Realty Trust for the making of specific repairs in Boylston Street, Arlington Street, and Providence Street as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Our next item is on a petition by Arlington Boylston Realty Trust for the granting of a projection license for the installation of canopies and awnings over portions of the sidewalks within the following public ways in Boston proper. The locations of Boylston Street on its southerly side at address number 350 west of Arlington Street, and Arlington Street on its westerly side between Boylston Street and Providence Street on its northerly side west of Arlington Street. This was new business on September 3rd, 2020, had its first public hearing on September 24th, 2020, And this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Canopy License Plan, 350 Boylston Street, Back Bay, 3 sheets dated October 2020.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Schmidt with Niche Engineering. So along Boylston Street, we have one large steel and glass canopy that will project at the curb line or near the curb line 16.5 feet above the sidewalk, and at the building 13 and a half feet above the sidewalk. It projects 10 feet into a 15-foot wide sidewalk, so we're under the 65% rule, and it will be internally drained and heat traced. Then we also have 17 retractable awnings. The first awning on the left side of the drawing is our largest awning, and that is 28 square feet. And then the remaining 16 awnings are all 20 square feet. And they project 2.9 feet into the sidewalk, again, which is 15 feet wide, and they are 10 feet above the sidewalk. As we turn to Arlington Street, we have the same 20 square foot awnings. We have 10 awnings along Arlington Street, and they project 2.9 feet into a very wide sidewalk, into a 15-foot wide sidewalk, and then they are 10 feet above the sidewalk. And as we turn to Providence Street, we have the largest canopy is a metal canopy at the most significant entrance along Providence Street. It is 10 feet 9 inches above the sidewalk, and it projects 4.3 feet into a 7.1 wide, 7.1 foot sidewalk, so we're 60-foot projection into the public way. It is heat traced and internally drained. We also have 3 canopies along Providence Street that are similar to the canopies on the other streets, 20 square feet, 10 feet above the sidewalk, 2.9 feet projection into the public way. And that's my presentation.
Great. John, thank you for that overview. Questions or comments on the projection licenses? Todd, Robbie?
All
Any
set.
members of the public? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Todd.
All set. No public.
Okay. And just as a reminder, for members of the public who are interested in testifying, feel free to do so either by putting your name in the chat or if you're visible on the screen, raising your hand. With that, we'll entertain a motion on this item.
I make a motion to approve a petition by Arlington Boylston Realty Trust for a projection license on Boylston Street, Arlington Street, and Providence Street, as more particularly read into the record by the chair.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you, and stay safe, everyone.
Good to go. Moving on to the public hearing portion of our agenda. Our first item is on a petition by the City of Boston Public Facilities Department for the making of specific repairs within Marshall Road, a public way in Boston proper, located at the side of 900 Washington Street between Harrison Avenue and Washington Street, consisting of curb realignment, sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps and storm drain infrastructure. This was new business on September 24th, 2020. This is shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repairs Plan, Marginal Road, 900 Washington Street, and 249 Harrison Avenue, Boston proper, 1 sheet dated September 2020.
Thank you, Chief Osgood, and thank you, members of the Public Improvements Commission. My name is Ron McNulty. I'm a Senior Project Manager with the city's Public Facilities Department. If I may share my screen now so that I can run through the slide deck.
Please, that'd be great.
Thank you. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. With me today is Carlton Jones, who's an Assistant Director of Operations for the Public Facilities Department. We also have with us today Jim Dowd and Savatya Sar, who are with Skansky USA Building. They're the owner's project manager for the project. HMFH Architects, Pip Lewis, the principal from HMFH, is here with us as well, as is Josh Stories, who is the civil engineer from Niche Engineering. So just a quick overview of the Josiah Quincy Upper School project. This project will be located at 900 Washington Street in the city's Chinatown neighborhood. This is a 6-story new school for the Boston Public Schools. It'll be located directly across the street from the Josiah Quincy Elementary School, and will be bounded on the south side by Marginal Road, on the east side by Harrison Ave, and on the north side by Pine Street. Just an overview of where we are with the project schedule. The project team, the School Building Authority, has recently submitted the schematic design for their review and approval. We expect to begin construction on the JQUS project next summer at the conclusion of this current school year, where we'll be constructing space in the existing Arlington campus of the JQUS building to accommodate the 6th and 7th graders who are currently located in concrete modulars who are located on the current project site. We expect the project to continue construction from there and to be ready for operations for BPS for the beginning of the 2024-2025 school year. So just a quick schedule detail of where we are. As I mentioned, we are working with the MSBA, the Mass School Building Authority, for the project. The MSBA has various different modules that they have us go through. At this time, we have just entered Module 6, which is detailed design or design development. Some of the activities that we're going to be performing during this phase of the project is selection of a CM at risk, putting together a design package for swing space, further into the design of not only the building, but also the streetscape as well, cost estimating and scheduling, but also we are expecting to be held for a vote for approval of a project funding agreement at the Mass School Building Authority board meeting later this month on October 28th. So at this time, this project currently is estimated to be a $193 million project, and this time where the city is estimating that we will be receiving in the neighborhood of $54 million in reimbursement towards the cost of the project. So we've been working over the past 6 months or so with various representatives from other city departments, primarily with, excuse me, the PTD representatives. We've had several meetings with Amy Cording and her staff, as well as with William Moose. We also met with the Boston Water and Sewer Department, Denise Devlin, as well, to talk about our vertical discontinuances. And so we'll be continuing to work with the various cities as the project continues along design. But we find ourselves in a position here where we need to request approval from the PIC to approve vertical discontinuances in order to establish ownership and control of the site so that we can execute the project funding agreement with the Mass School Building Authority. So here we have a rendering of the new building. In front of you, you see the Mass Turnpike as well as Marginal Road. On the left side is Washington Street, and on the right side is Harrison Avenue. In the elevations, you'll see on the west side is the auditorium for the JQUS. On the right side, the projection over the sidewalk is the gymnasium. And above that are 4 stories or 4 floors of classrooms, which are going to be facing south and will require sun shading. Because this is a relatively small site, it's kind of a trapezoidal shaped site, it's very tight, 0 lot line construction. The educational program, working with BPS and others that's required for the new JQUS school, requires these overhangs over the sidewalk. So the next slide is a site plan. Pip, are you able to speak to the site plan, or Josh?
Philip, you're on mute.
Yes. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the site plan of the proposed Quincy Upper School. It includes the to the left also the site of the Quincy Elementary School, because the 2 schools are associated. You can see that the building fills out the entire site with just a few small exceptions. You can see the unusual trapezoidal shape of the site, as the site is bound by Marginal Road and the Turnpike on the south, by Washington Street on the west and Harrison Avenue on the east. And then the trapezoidal shape comes from a small street called Pine Street, which goes along the north side of the site. And the projections, the vertical discontinuances that we are looking at are all along Marginal Road, projecting to the south. Going to the floor plan, you can see that the major entrance to the project is off of Washington Street. and it has a recess, really just so that we can provide a safe space for students to wait and gather before they're led into the building, further away from Washington Street for their safety. This is covered by upper portions of the building. And then again, the building really fills out the site on all sides. There's a few areas on Pine Street because we're very close to adjacent residential buildings. And so we're doing what we can to pull some of the mass of the building away from the Pine Street residences and provide a little bit of green space relief because this new building will be much larger than than those residential buildings are at the moment. When you enter the building off of Washington Street, you enter a lobby space cafeteria that leads you to a major stairway that takes you upstairs to the second floor where the auditorium and the gymnasium are. These are the two big public spaces for the school. Those are the two spaces that really just fitting the program that was required us to project out into the street. And so it's the second floor projections that we're talking about.
One other item I would just mention is that at our new business hearing 2 weeks ago, Para mentioned or asked us to clarify our intention with regard to resurfacing the adjacent streets. And so just wanted to circle back to everyone on that and let you know that the project's intention is to mill and overlay Pine Street to reconstruct Marginal Road and also to mill and overlay the utility entrance locations for the building on Washington and Harrison Avenue.
Thank you so much. Truly appreciate that.
Second floor, Pip, you want to take this? Yep.
Yeah, this is the second floor plan. This is the an important community space for the project. It will become an important building in Chinatown and South End areas. And here you can see this major stairway that can lead the public up to the second floor and into the auditorium and into the gymnasium. There's also a small black box theater. And you can see perhaps that we're really squeezing to get the gymnasium in, but it doesn't fit within the bounds of the building. So it's projecting about 16 feet into the Marginal Road right away.
Excellent. Yep, and that's a good segue, I think, into the site plan. Josh, you want to run through the next couple of slides?
Since vertical continuous is the next item on the agenda, can we hit specific repairs first, and then we'll do vertical?
Absolutely. Yep, sure.
Sure. And Rowan, if you actually want to allow me to share my screen, I can kind of get in a little closer with the specific repairs plan.
Okay, no problem. Sure. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and can everyone see that just fine?
Okay.
Great. Okay, so again, good morning, everyone. My name is Joshua Soares with Niche Engineering. I know we kind of started going a little backwards there, and we want to stay on track with keeping the specific repairs petition first and foremost. So this plan was put together in response to the vertical discontinuances and the need to basically realign the curb line within Marginal Way in order to prevent the new projection with extending into the vehicular path of traffic. So through coordination with the BTD, Amy Cording, and even more recently, as Ron stated, with Charlotte Fleetwood and William Moose, we've kind of come up with a preliminary realignment of the curb within Marginal Road, which will be able to maintain the building projection outside of the vehicular path of traffic. Additionally, we have worked with Denise at Boston Water and Sewer to realign the sewer. There were concerns that as we develop the plans further, because as Ron stated, we're kind of in the schematic design phase of the project right now. There would be concerns that ultimately any foundations might impact the existing sanitary sewer here, which consists of a 24-inch sewer main. So as part of the specific repairs plan put forward now, we're going to go ahead and realign the sewer. Additionally, in response to coordination with Boston Water and Sewer, obviously with the curb realignment and narrowing of Marginal Road, there's the potential to impact the current drainage patterns. Fortunately, there aren't any major impacts, and in setting the bottom curb elevation based on the existing pavement grades, we maintain the existing pattern, and simply we can just provide new drainage inlets over top the existing drainage structures. So there's one here, and then a second structure that would have to be installed over the existing drainage line on the east end of Marginal Road. So furthermore, regarding the actual curb realignment, we are proposing to improve the condition at the intersection of Marginal Road and Washington Street with the expansion of the bump out here to allow for safer and easier pedestrian walking path through here. It gets pretty tight against the retaining wall and around through the traffic signals and street lights. So we will be increasing that width. And again, so this kind of reflects the worst case scenario with the proposed realignment. We have had further discussions and further narrowing Marginal Road to, I believe, 28 feet, which would increase the separation between the projection and the face of the curb an additional 7 feet, which would basically put it at near compliance with the 2/3 widths rule. I think it comes down to about 67 or 68%. And as Rowan stated, the Facilities Department in Boston Public Schools is committed to improving the surrounding streetscapes, as shown here with the new mill and overlay of Washington Street, Pine Street, portions of Harrison Ave, Marginal Road. And that's not to mention that as, again, we further move through the design, that we will provide additional streetscape improvements, permeable paver strips, street trees, and additional furnishings. And with that, that's all I have for the specific repairs. If there are any questions.
Any questions or comments from the commission on the specific repair plan?
Yeah, actually, we did have another comment, Josh.
Sure.
On Pine Street, is Pine Street a public way or a private way?
Private.
Okay. Yeah, the information that we have shows it as a public way, so we wanted to clarify that. Viewers submitting like a final set of plans, we request that you show the limits of the private way versus the public way, just so we can have clarification on that. That would be great.
Yeah, sure. We'll look into that further.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. And then also, are you planning on doing anything on that side on Pine Street, like through the site plan process at this time?
Yeah, at the moment, and again, we're early in the design process, but the intent is to provide an underslab groundwater recharge system, which will ultimately overflow to the Boston Water and Sewer main in Pine Street here.
Okay.
I thought that was public in the street book.
Pine Street is a public way. Pine Street is a public way between Harrison Ave and Washington Street.
Yep.
Okay, yep. We'll revise the plans and look into that discrepancy there.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the commission on this specific repair plan? And just to confirm, obviously, you guys will be back with another repair plan specific to the streetscape design, which will sort of account for, in particular, sort of the potential proximity of the overhang to the curb line.
Yes, absolutely. This the timing is a little bit unusual in the sense that the MSB requires us to have this process complete at this point in time. So yes.
Understand the broader timeline that you guys are working on. I appreciate it.
Great. Yeah, and that's noted on the specific repairs plan that we fully intend to come back to the commission at a later date with the full intended design.
Right.
The new specific repairs. Yep.
Todd or Rob, any questions or comments on this repair plan?
No, we're all set on this.
Members of the public?
None.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on the specific repair plan.
I'll make a motion on a petition by the City of Boston Public Facilities Department for the making of specific repairs within Marginal Road as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Our next item is on a petition by the City of Boston Public Facilities Department for the vertical discontinuance of portions of Marginal Road, a public way in Boston proper, located at the side of Manor and Washington Street between Harrison Avenue and Washington Street, vertically above the grade of the sidewalk. This was new business on September 24th, 2020, and this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, vertical discontinuance, Marginal Road, 900 Washington Street and 249 Harrison Avenue, Boston proper, 2 sheets dated September 2020.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Josh Soar is still here. I'll get right into the vertical discontinuance that was just previously discussed. The two main areas include the vertical discontinuance for associated with the auditorium, and then the larger area associated with the gymnasium. Along the full southern face of the building will include the sunshades due to the southern exposure. Vertical discontinuance area A with the auditorium, it extends currently, well, as proposed, approximately 10 feet into the right-of-way, leaving approximately 7.8 feet between the face of that and the proposed edge of the curb. Whereas the larger discontinuance area associated with the gymnasium extends approximately 17 feet into the right-of-way. And you're left with as little as approximately 0.6 feet between the edge of that and the base of the curb. And again, it's to be noted that in likelihood, this proposed curb will be further realigned to narrow Marginal Road and provide that additional 7 feet of clearance between the edge of that overhang and the face of the curb. The vertical discontinuance area A is approximately 22 feet above the finished grade and is approximately 23 feet high, whereas the gymnasium overhang is approximately 17 feet above grade and 26 feet high. And you can see these in cross-sectional view on this following sheet. Any questions?
The clearance height on the auditorium portion at 10 feet, that is 10 feet and a few inches, that meets our standards.
I'm sorry, talk about the height again?
Sorry, that was a question for Todd. I just want to confirm that
sorry.
the clearance height for the auditorium portion at 10 feet and I think Joshua said 2 inches, but that meets our minimum standard.
Yeah, so we're kind of playing with our standards here a little bit. Obviously, some of these projections don't meet the maximum 2/3 width of the sidewalk requirement. However, in the areas where they are going beyond 2/3 the width of the sidewalk, they are quite a bit higher than our 10-foot minimum clearance. So that's one reason we're willing to consider this. Additionally, they're going to design their streetscape in a way that will prevent vehicles from hopping up onto the curb and potentially coming in contact with these building elements. So it was a pretty lengthy discussion regarding those standards, but we're comfortable with where they are.
Okay. Thank you, John.
To reiterate, Chief Osgood, the auditorium will be approximately 22 feet above the grade of the sidewalk, and the gymnasium will be about 17 feet above the finished grade.
I apologize. Thank you for that clarification. Other questions or comments?
Chief, Mr. Nalde, I'm sorry. Jay?
Yes.
Absolutely exciting project. Public Works will do all, not just Public Works, all the city departments, we will do all that we need to do to help you to achieve the end goal over here, including any interactions which you may have or which you may need to have with utility companies to support your project when you need it to be supported. Our PIC staff and my team, we can help you in that outreach if such outreach is needed. Okay? So
much appreciated. Yes, and I would just also say that Todd and Amy and others at BTD have been extremely helpful thus far on the project. So thank you very much for that.
You have our support.
Other questions or comments? Dr. Robbie?
I think we're all set with this.
All right, members of the public?
I see none.
Okay, all right, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by the City of Boston Public Facilities Department for the vertical discontinuance of portions of Marginal Road, as more particularly read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Great project.
Thank you. We look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.
Our next item is on a bid by One Channel Center Ground Lease Lessee LLC for the making of specific repairs within Medallion Avenue, a public way in South Boston, located at the side of 1 Iron Street between Richard Street and Iron Street, consisting of new emergency flood barrier infrastructure. This was new business on September 24th, 2020. This is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plan, 1 Iron Street, Temporary Flood Barriers, Boston, 2 sheets dated July 2020.
Thank you and good morning, Commission. My name is Justin Miller with Tishman Speyer.
Justin,
And-
can I, before you start, can I just, do you see the PowerPoint? I don't think it's up yet.
We
I
don't
do
yet.
not.
Can I share here?
Please do.
It's not letting me, huh. This is Andre Martechini.
Yep. Todd, can you see if, I don't know if this, is the present now feature showing for you on?
It's not letting me click here.
We can present the plan if that's easier, Andre.
All right. Justin, do you have the PowerPoint there by any chance?
I do. Hold on. Maybe it'll work for me.
Yep, no problem.
You have to present now, then you have to select the window that you're going to present, and then you need to confirm.
Yeah, there you go.
one last
Yep,
time.
Can everyone see?
We got it, yep.
Great. Sorry about the technical hiccup. And thank you, Andre, for trying. So my name is Justin Miller. I'm with Tishman Speyer, and I'm presenting on behalf of One Channel Center Ground Leasee LLC. I'm joined by my colleagues, Kathy Gonzalez, who is the general manager of One Channel Center, and Andre Martechini and Robin Seidel, who are consultants and colleagues at Kleinfelder. Today, we're going to be talking about the installation of anchors in the sidewalk along Medallion Avenue, abutting the east side of One Channel Center, which will allow us for the installation and temporary deployment of demountable flood barriers along that sidewalk. So I'll get things started and then I'll hand it over to Andre to give a little bit more of an overview of the technical aspects of the system. But to paint a picture, One Channel Center is located down the A Street corridor towards the southern end of the Channel Center Association near the West Broadway Red Line stop in the Seaport of Boston. It happens to be located in a particular area of the Seaport that is particularly susceptible to to raising water and potential flood damage, as the map on the left shows. So when we purchased the property at the end of 2015, we also purchased and installed a deployable flood barrier system to protect against instances of raised water levels due to storm surges. On the right, you can see an example of that from March 2018 when there was a successful deployment. Unfortunately, this particular system that we deployed does not correspond with the 4-foot clearance along the sidewalk that's required by the city's Disabilities Commission. So we have since been working with Todd and Amy and Sarah from the PIC and Disabilities Commissions respectively to plan the procurement of a different flood barrier system that corresponds with that guideline. And our colleagues at Kleinfelder have helped source an alternative system, which we've since presented, that can wrap around our loading dock gates and hardscape planters along that sidewalk to respect that 4-foot guidelines and still provide the amount of protection that we need to prevent water from getting into our loading dock and damaging the infrastructure of the building. So with that background stated, I'll now hand it over to Andre to go through the actual plan for the anchors in the flood barrier system.
Great. Thank you, Justin. Again, Andre Martechini from Kleinfelder. And so the subject of this public hearing is actually the drop-in flood barrier system down along the bottom of this drawing along Medallion Avenue. The green barriers up on the upper part of the drawing, those are the Aquafence panels that were previously purchased, and they are all situated on private property, and we do not impact we have sufficient room for people to pass by there. So the subject of this is the Medallion Avenue drop-in panel system. Next. So the again, just blowing up that little area there. This is a panel system that's very narrow, and basically it'll be hugging there's a little planter along the sidewalk, and some of the little barriers that stop the loading dock area, and so it'll be just hugging there. The minimum clearance that we do maintain, at least a 4-foot clearance from any object, and so that's achieving the aim of this. Next. It is a deployable system, so the picture on the left is an example of what it will look like. The posts, when you need to deploy in advance of a storm, the posts get bolted down to inserts that are going to be left in the sidewalk. They'll be drilled and grouted into the sidewalk, and you erect the post, and then you drop in the panels, and there's a little kind of a screw mechanism that pushes the panels down to make sure that they seal, all the gaskets that are there are well sealed. And then when it's not deployed, basically there'll be four what we call blanking bolts, which are basically inserted into the threads so that they don't get all crudted up with stuff, and it protects the threads. The bolts are flush to the sidewalk, so they will not be projecting above the sidewalk, so there's no tripping hazard or no issues with snow plowing. And next, and just, from a structural point of view, there'll be at each one of those posts, there are four bolts in plan view, and they're basically drilled into the sidewalk, which varies between 6 to 10 inches in thickness in this area. Next. There was a question of, how many times do we envision having to deploy a system like this? So on the bottom right, there are 3 barrier locations. The bottom one is the Medallion Avenue, which is what we're calling location 1. The ground floor elevation that we're trying to protect there is elevation 13, and this is mean low water. Area 2, which is along A Street, is about elevation 13.7, so it's a little higher ground, and the middle area are elevation 15.4. So the idea is that under the flood operations plan, which we'll talk about in a minute, when a storm is coming, we don't necessarily have to deploy everything. It'll be dependent on what the predicted storm flood elevation is. So if we're only predicting somewhere close to the 13 number, we'll probably only deploy along Medallion Avenue. If it gets a little bit higher, you'll go one end to Medallion and A Street, and then if it's really a big storm, then all of them will be deployed. And just there was a question: how many times do you envision this happening? So 2018 was a kind of a banner year for flooding, And we would have hit elevation 13. In other words, we would have had to deploy along or get close to elevation 13 about 7 times. But on average, over the last 10 years, it was 2.8 times. So say 3 times a year, we might have, deployed along Medallion. Similarly, if, at elevation 13.5, it would be less than once a year that, on average, that we would have deployed at both 1 and 2. And to get up to the 15 sort of range, it doesn't happen very often. It happened once in 2018. So it's not a frequent occurrence that we're dealing with here. Next. And, just what we wanted to, just communicate is the reason that we're doing this is, at these threshold levels, when water enters above those threshold levels, it impacts a lot of things. For instance, a lot of life safety systems, generators, the transformers from Eversource, 3 of them are down by the loading dock area. There's some electrical closets that can potentially get flooded, and so on. So there's a lot of pretty important equipment that, if that is subject to damage, could cause the building to shut down for anywhere from just a short period, but depending on how much equipment gets damaged, it could be actually a longer period depending on the availability of parts. Next. And again, consequences. This happened. This was the picture on both of these pictures occurred in January of 2018, before they had the barriers to actually deploy. This was along Medallion Ave, and this is now the flood of record. This is the highest flood that we've ever experienced. In March, we experienced the 3rd highest after the blizzard of '78. So, we have our two out of our most recent high record floods were in 2018. So it's a reality that, the building is trying to protect against. And next. So at our meeting last 2 weeks ago at the new business meeting, we talked about submitting a flood operations plan. We did that, and it has been reviewed and approved by the Boston Fire Department. And so just without getting into a lot of details about the plan, but basically it describes, some roles and responsibilities. In other words, who makes the calls, the activation triggers. These are the different elevations of flooding that can activate, areas 1, 2, or 3. It lists all the equipment and supplies required. And it goes through the actual actions that have to happen before you deploy, when you deploy, before you remove, and post removal. In other words, some documentation requirements. It also talks a little bit about the access and the egress and evacuation, depending on partial or full deployment. During a partial deployment, the building can still be occupied and shelter in place. For full deployment, the plan calls for the building to be evacuated. It talks about notifying various agencies, including Boston Fire Department, and some various safety requirements, inspection and maintenance issues, because your system is only as good as your protection is only as good as if the system is maintained. And then finally, training and exercises. And this will be deployed once a year at a minimum for training purposes. And let's see, the last one.
I can pick this up if you'd like, Andre.
Sure.
So just to add just a minor bit of context to the evacuation plan, in addition to making sure that it corresponds with all of the and received approval from the required city agencies, it's also corresponding to our emergency egress plan, which we worked on in conjunction with our tenant in the building, State Street Bank. this is how it relates to that plan, where if there were an emergency that would require evacuation of the building, there are different points of egress where one panel in the flood barrier system would be temporarily folded down. Temporary ADA ramps could be placed over those so that we could make sure everyone is safely out of the building. And then once the flood barrier is fully erected, in the event that emergency crews need to traverse during a storm, in a worst case scenario where we're flooding and there's an emergency evacuation that requires emergency crews to go back in, they can cross by way of A-frame ladder. And again, just tying back to our flood operations plan, this is sort of the trigger portion of it for when we would look to deploy the flood barriers, when we have our property management team tracking Weather Service and FEMA reports. The building manager, Kathy, and our chief engineer would contact local authorities and communicate with the tenant to make sure that everyone's aware of the severity of the storm. The property management team will also make sure that the equipment is ready to deploy, and if the water levels exceed the thresholds, the flood barriers will be deployed. Again, we have only experienced one event where there was such extreme conditions where the property needed to be closed because water levels were rising to the point where all entrances to the property needed flood barrier deployment. This was before we had the aquafence, so it's the instance where you saw the flood damage in the garage. But to state simply, we'll continue to correspond with both our tenant and with local authorities to make sure that everyone is kept safe in such an event. We're now happy to answer any questions.
Andre and Justin, I appreciate the sort of the modifications, obviously, to ensure accessibility and the thoughtfulness that went into the operational plan as well. You mentioned that fire department has reviewed this. Do you know if the Office of Emergency Management has connected back with you, Ben McNeil or Chief Shu Benford?
I haven't seen that correspondence. I don't know, Andre, if you've received anything offline, but I assume that's not.
Robin, I don't know.
Okay.
We are happy to check with them.
We're looking to make sure that there's coordination both across fire, and appreciate all of your coordination with them, as well as our Office of Emergency Management. Other questions or comments on the design?
Chief, just a point of clarification. Mr. Miller and your team, the Public Improvement Commission is in no way passing judgment or comments as to your operations plan, the triggering mechanism, or the way how you manage the situation. You are seeking the permission of the Public Improvement Commission to deploy the elements and the changes to the surface. As how you use that is not to be guided, influenced by the Public Improvement Commission.
Very well said.
That's right.
Other questions or comments? Todd or Abby?
Keeping in mind exactly what Para just mentioned, PIC staff would request a copy of the approved flood operations plan just for our files.
Of course.
And Todd, for that, do we need it from both, approval from both fire and from OEM? Do we need to make it, should we make this a contingent vote based on for OEM to sign off on, or just?
Yes, I don't know if OEM needs to explicitly sign off on that plan, but I think you're right. I think getting some sort of sign off or consent from OEM would be prudent. So we would appreciate that as well.
And we can, Andre and Justin, we can help make that connection.
Okay.
That's going to be hard. Any members of the public?
I don't see any.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion on this item, again, contingent upon OEM's final sign-off.
I'll make a motion on a petition by One Channel Center Ground Lease LLC for the making of specific repairs within Medallion Ave, as read into the record by the chair, contingent upon final sign-off by OEM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Our fourth item is on a petition by Boston Trinity Academy for the abandonment of any and all rights to travel the public may have had within Beaver Street, a private way open to public travel in Hyde Park from Gordon Avenue to the southwesterly terminus of Brayburn Road. This was new business on September 24th, 2020. And this is shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Abandonment Plan, Beaver Street, Hyde Park, one sheet dated September 18th, 2020.
Hi, good morning. My name is Christian Strom. I'm with Jones Architecture. I'm here representing Boston Trinity Academy. With me is Frank Guerra, the headmaster of Boston Trinity, as well as my civil engineer, Brian Wheeler from BVH Integrated Services. Before I start presenting, I do have 2 petitions today. I believe I have what I need for this first petition regarding the street abandonment, but I'm missing something for my second petition. Does it make sense to proceed with the street abandonment petition now, or should I ask for a continuation for both?
Christian, I appreciate the question. Todd, do you have a preference?
I think we can move forward with the abandonment, and then the specific repairs can be continued. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Then I will present my screen. So can you see this?
We can.
Okay. Just a reminder, this is for the abandonment of Beaver Street, a private way located between Gordon Ave and Braeburn Road in Hyde Park. It is abutted solely by Boston Trinity Academy property. The school building this is actually the west at the top of the page, and this large parking lot to the east. At our new business hearing, the commission requested a couple things. One was a letter of support from the neighbors located here to the north along Braeburn Road. We did receive one affidavit of support from number 62 Braeburn Road, but it appears that number 64 Braeburn Road has been abandoned, and so there's really nobody to get in touch with there. I have a follow-up slide here just showing this letter of support from the abutter as well as the abandoned property.
Great. And if, Christian, if you can just provide, and Todd, I defer to you on whether this is I think we can just sort of provide, hey, this is the letter you sent to 64 or something that just says that shows the documents, the outreach that you did to them, that would be great.
Yes. Yes, I'll absolutely follow up with that. Furthermore, I just wanted to point to a few things from our title opinion. One thing here is from the release deed, 62 and 64, Braeburn Road. These releases would eliminate any potential claims of easement rights in the direction of Gordon Street. So I think that's clearly spelled out. And I'm sorry, my daughter is trying to get on a Zoom call for her school. Sorry, so this speaks to, it speaks further to that. Moving on, our legal counsel found no evidence that the locus portion of Beaver Street was ever subject to a taking for purposes as a public way. So I think this supports our finding that, this is indeed a private road and there shouldn't be any public claims to use of this road. And finally, here in summary, all private rights of passage that might have been raised by owners of other landowners within the block have been released. So we feel that, the title opinion clearly shows that that this street is within Boston Trinity Academy's private right. The next item that I was requested to look into a little further was easements along Beaver Street. There is only one easement, and that is the sewer easement, which was granted in 1907. We're not disputing this. It's right here. This is the plot plan from 1907. And this little pink line shows it. And then I also have our actual abandonment plan, if I could get to it. just noting the easement there and highlighting the area that we want to abandon. Oop. Sorry, I'm used to using blue beam. So there are no other utility easements on this property. It's only the sewer easement. And I think that pretty much sums up what I have for the street abandonment petition.
Thank you, Christian. Denise, any thoughts or comments on the sewer easement?
We actually did, we sent Christian a response about our easements, and, what we did say was we did want to maintain our easements because we have public facilities that need to be maintained in order to serve the customers outside the limit of work and the proposed abandonment. And actually, I do want to double check. I don't know if we had overlooked the water in here. I believe that is public, and as Christian stated, it looks like it's just the sewer easement that he owns. Excuse me, the easement only includes the sewer and not the water.
Okay.
But I believe on the site plan, you were proposing to do some abandonments of the water.
I'm sorry, can you please excuse me for 1 minute, 30 seconds?
No problem, we all very much understand.
Denise, PJ here. Denise, if there are any semblance of any public water that is being utilized through that easement, we need to make sure that the abandonment plans has a qualifier saying that in the future, no one can build obviously on top of it, through it, or underneath it, and that your easement is protected. So we need to make sure that the abandonment plan does not neutralize or compromise the sewer easement or the water easement for the next 5,000 years or 500, for the future.
I'm sorry I had to step away. I'm in the middle of getting my 6-year-old in class.
Christian, we very much no need to apologize for that. The item that is before us.
I'm sorry I missed a few things there. Just going back to Denise was requesting that we show water easement as well in our plan. But I missed what Para said.
Yeah, Kristen, in a nutshell, the sewer easement, especially when Boston gobbled up our neighboring cities, including the town of Hyde Park, these easements are there for obviously public purposes, not just for the immediate others. So to make sure.
I'm having a very hard time understanding. I'm sorry. I think it's breaking up a little bit on your end.
Let me speak slowly. You need to ensure that those easements are not compromised from here to eternity, even though the right of way is being abandoned. The easements need to continue, and that language be included in the recording of the abandonment. So let's assume 100 years later or 10 years later, you cannot build a structure above the sewer easements, okay? Because I promise you 10 years from now, people are going to not record this, and when someone does the title search, as you have thoroughly done, those easements, the abandonment plans cannot override the easement which the Water and Sewer Commission is trying to retain. Okay?
Yes, understood. And that's also one of the reasons we never planned, any building over the easement. But sorry, so how do I best record this?
You should add a note to the abandonment plan, and then we will also add a note to the PIC order, and both of those documents will be recorded, and that should hopefully, as long as Denise and the Water and Sewer Commission are okay with that, that should sufficiently note the retention of this easement.
Okay.
Great, well, we can make this action contingent upon that final sign off from water and sewer and the appropriate annotation around the easement rights.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Todd, Robbie?
We're all set as long as those notes are added to this plan.
Great. And any members of the public?
I see none.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item again, contingent upon final sign off from Boston Water and Sewer and the inclusion of appropriate notation around the easement rights in the amendment.
I make a motion to approve a petition by Boston Trinity Academy for the abandonment of rights to travel on Beaver Street, as more particularly read into the record by the chair and subject to retention of the water and sewer easements and contingent upon sign off by Boston Water and Sewer Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you so much. Moving on to our next item on a petition by Boston Trinity Academy for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Hyde Park, consisting of curb, roadway, sidewalk, and pedestrian ramp reconstruction, as well as new and relocated wayfinding signage and driveway curb cuts. The locations are Hale Street at address number 17, generally between Gordon Avenue and Emmett Street, Gordon Avenue on its northeasterly side between Hale Street and Child Street on its northwesterly side, northeast of Gordon Avenue, Rayburn Road on its northwesterly side, southwest of Chestnut Street. This was new business on September 24th, 2020. This is as shown on a set of plans in town, City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, specific repairs plan, Gordon Avenue, Child Street, Rayburn Road, Hale Street, Hyde Park, 4 sheets dated September 18th, 2020.
Good morning. My name is Christian Strom with Jones Architecture. I'm here representing Boston Trinity Academy. With me, I have Frank Guerra, headmaster of Boston Trinity Academy, and Brian Wheeler, civil engineer from BVH Integrated Services. At our new business hearing, the commission requested approval from the street lighting division. We have not received that yet, so we'd like to request a continuance until we have that approval.
Great. Was 2 weeks enough, or would you prefer 4 weeks?
I believe 2 weeks should be good.
Great. And have we resolved the Hale Street crossing that I think, Amy, you had raised?
I've been working with Sarah on it, and I believe I resolved it.
Great. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments on the request for a 2-week continuance? Todd or Robbie?
No, I can confirm that they've been working with the Disabilities Commission on the Hale Street crossing, and I think they're in a good place.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, Todd. Any members of the public?
I see none.
All right. I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to continue public hearing item number 4 as read into the record by the chair for 2 weeks.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was number 5.
5. Sorry.
Thank you, Para. For the record, that is a request to continue public hearing item number 5 for 2 weeks.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Christian. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Moving on to the new business portion, our first item is Staywood Avenue and Valor Road, East Boston, pedestrian easement, specific repairs on a set of joint petitions by Trinity Orient Heights, Phase 3 Limited Partnership, and the Boston Housing Authority.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sienna DeSantis, and I'm here with Trinity Financial, representing on behalf of the developer Trinity Orient Heights Phase 3 Limited Partnership. I'm joined by our engineers, both Deb Danik and Faisal Husseini from Niche. I also have Allison Burton joining me from the Boston Housing Authority, as this is a project with land owned by the Boston Housing Authority, along with Sean Sanger from Copley Wolf Design and David Lynn Hart representing us from Goulston and Stores. Just a quick recap, the project for the roadway improvements is associated with 123 redevelopment of public housing in the Orient Heights neighborhood of East Boston. The project schedule would be getting underway spring of 2021 with a duration of roughly 20 months for construction. We're here to present the roadway improvements.
Great. Thank you, Sienna.
Thank you.
I'll take over from there. I'm Deb Danik with Niche Engineering. I'm going to share my screen. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. But one thing to note that Sienna didn't quite mention is that this is actually the third phase in 3 phases of approval that we've gone through with the Public Improvement Commission. I'm wondering if you can see my screen now.
We can,
Perfect.
Jen.
I wanted to just do a little reminder of where we started and where we got to and give you a little update on what the project is, because I know that you've heard about this for a while now, and it's always fun to see the befores and afters. But this project is located in East Boston in the Orient Heights section. It's a Boston Housing Authority property, which is really large and actually bisected by 2 public ways. So it's bounded by Waldemar Avenue on the north and Faywood Avenue on the south, with Fowler Road going through the middle. Phase 1 of this project was constructed and completed, and you can see it along Waldemar Avenue. There were existing Z-shaped buildings along Waldemar Avenue that were demolished and replaced with, you'll hear me talk about townhouse buildings, which are these ones, and then a mid-rise building. This is phase 1 completed. This Google Earth is now is showing the phase 2 construction, which at this point is fully completed. So Valor Road with the widening and extension and then the modifications to the roundabout have been modified and fully constructed to this point. We've also received approval to do the second half of Valor Road. We just have not constructed that yet. So our requests today are for the improvements for the last portion in the 3rd phase of this project along Faywood Avenue. I want to just get you down in here to kind of see what it looks like today. Faywood Avenue right now is a one-way road. Sorry for those of you that may get motion sickness. One-way road going uphill, currently has parking on both sides, and both of the existing sidewalks on either side are about 5-foot cement concrete width. The phase 2 work that we have completed, I wanted to kind of show you where we're going with the proposed work. Those existing sidewalks are 5 feet wide. We're proposing on the north side of Faywood, and let me get this plan out for you. So we were just looking to the left uphill. The north side of Faywood Avenue, we're proposing to widen the existing sidewalk in order to install street trees and give a clear 5-foot wide pedestrian walkway. And then on the south side of Faywood, we're actually going to maintain the existing sidewalk width that exists due to there's existing cheek walls along the back of sidewalk. In order to maintain the existing roadway width, we have coordinated this with BTD. We did a couple different studies of Faywood to see if it made sense to widen it to make it 2-way. Not only the technical details of that, but also talking to the neighborhood, maintaining this one-way road makes sense, and so we're moving forward with that. So as I started saying earlier, the proposal that we have before you is to modify the north side of the sidewalk to widen it in order to install street trees. We'd also be requesting a pedestrian easement in order to make the widening possible. And on the south side, we would be replacing the sidewalk in kind and making all those improvements MAB compliant, as well as repaving the roadway and putting a new top on it. So I had these images just to give you a feel of what it would look like on the north side of the sidewalk with the street trees, because it's the same installation we just put in on Valor Road. So right here is one of the townhome buildings, and then this is the mid-rise building. So as you're walking adjacent on the sidewalk towards the mid-rise building, this is what it feels like with the street trees and then the plantings. And then the townhomes feel very different because they have individual entrances for people, but we still have the 3-foot wide tree pit and the 5-foot wide sidewalk. So I think the only really other specific detail to this is that we are maintaining the existing curb in place. So the tree pits are going to vary a little bit. They may be 3.1 feet wide, but we are maintaining the 5-foot wide clear sidewalk. It felt visually like keeping the sidewalk the same width would work better than having the sidewalk kind of meander in and out so that the street trees were the same exact width. The other thing we're coordinating is some of the painting and signage on the road. We're going to add some sharrows for bike lanes and then replace some of the signage to swap. There is an existing accessible parking on the south side of Faywood Avenue. And I'm sorry, this is better. On the south side of Faywood Avenue, we're proposing it to move those existing accessible parking spaces with signage to the north side because the accessible living units will be in this mid-rise building. One other detail you'll notice on this plan, there's an existing not official parking lot, but paved area here that has a driveway into it for trash collection. We're proposing to relocate the existing driveway entrance just further up the hill because it works better for making this a more usable parking lot, and the trash collection will be off the public way. The other thing that we had approved already during the Valor Road widening in alignment process that we did in 2018 was existing Valor Road kind of diagonals into Faywood, so we're teeing that off. So included in the Faywood improvements are the pedestrian crossings and accessible ramps required in order to make this crossing straighten out, and so the pedestrians can get across and through it. And I think those are kind of specifics. If you have any specific questions about the design or some of the improvements, I'd be glad to help answer those.
This is a minor one, which coordination that have already happened, but if between now and the public hearing, if Deb, maybe via sort of Todd, can connect with Brian Coughlin, our superintendent of waste reduction, just about any, just to make sure that the access point for trash and recycling is one that we think will work.
Yeah, and I will just let you know that this trash is picked up by a private
company. Okay.
Private company, and not by the city.
And then as long as you feel like it will work, then that's fine.
Great, thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Debra, a couple of quick questions. What is the right-of-way width of Faywood today?
The right-of-way available between the two curbs is 28 feet. So the 7-foot parking, that puts me.
My question, what is the right-of-way of Faywood Avenue?
Sorry.
Is it a 100-foot street, 40-foot street, 39.6? What is the right-of-way width?
40 feet.
Thank you. So all BHA streets, Debra, because parking was a premium those days, 50 years ago. That's why you got 2 5-foot sidewalks on a 40 that left enough room for parking on either sides. I mean, there's a method to the madness as to why it is laid out with 2 5-foot sidewalks and not 2 7-foot sidewalks. Okay, so now you are increasing the sidewalk width on one side from 5 to 7, correct?
We're increasing it from 5 to, 8.
Okay, 8. Yep. But still within the 40-foot right-of-way, yes?
In order to facilitate the 8-foot wide sidewalk, we need to be afforded a pedestrian easement. So we're asking for a 3-foot wide pedestrian easement on the north side.
Okay, so you're jacking it up from 40 to 43 to allow the 3 feet. So you will still have 30 feet of pavement to facilitate 2 parking lanes. Correct?
There's 28 feet of pavement, but correct. We are not moving the curb line, and we're expanding. In order to expand the sidewalk, we're expanding into the private site.
All right, thank you, Debra.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments? Todd, Robbie?
No, we're all set.
Yeah. Members of the public?
I do not see any.
All right. Deborah, see on 2 weeks enough time?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
Great. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our next item of new business, 2451 Washington Street, Guild Row in Roxbury, a pedestrian easement on a petition by Madison Park Development Corporation, doing business as 2451 Washington LLC.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meg Regan, and I'm actually the project manager for 24 Washington Street. We submitted a petition for a pedestrian easement along Guild Row, and actually, I'm having some trouble figuring out how to share my screen to show the pedestrian easement. Todd, I was hoping that you could help me out.
Yeah, Meg, we can do that for you.
Thank you so much. Essentially, it's an extension of an already recorded pedestrian easement for 2451 Washington. We came to the city a couple of years back for the start of construction. And so this is essentially an extension of that, and it's roughly 8 feet in length, and we're maintaining that 5 feet width that is required by the city. I think that was the probably one of the more important comments that we received from city folks to show and note that we are maintaining that 5 feet width. So the project is currently in construction, and we are trying to reach substantial completion, hopefully later on this month. And the project is sponsored by the city. It has 16 units, 9 of which are market rate and 7 which are affordable. So we were just hoping to submit this pedestrian easement so that we have a pedestrian easement that captures the full boundary of the site.
Great. Any questions or comments on this modification of the pedestrian easement? Todd or Robbie?
No, we're all set with this.
All right. Members of the public?
I see none.
The total square footage of it is 8 feet?
8 feet.
Or less than that, actually.
8.43, I believe.
All right. Great. All right. Meg, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Does that work for you?
It does, thank you.
Great. Until then. Our next item of new business is 191-195 Bowden Street, Toplift Street, Dorchester pedestrian easement, specific repairs on a set of petitions by VNA doing business as 191-195 Bowden LLP or LP.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Jeffrey Pila from Samiotis Consultants, the civil engineer on the project. Part of the team, we have Eric Fellinger from V8 Housing, Lisa Giersbach from G2 Landscape Architect, Evan Parkinson from Util Design, the architect on the project. We are on behalf of, representing on behalf of 191-195 Bowden LP. And I can share my screen here. Let me know when you see that.
Yep, we got it, Jeffrey.
191-195 Bowden Street. Building will be located on a vacant lot. Site bounded by Bowden Street and Toplift. Abutting to the project to the south are residentials. To the north is abutted by Family Nurturing Center. And to the east are more commercial abutters. Pedestrian access to the project site can be gained from entrances along Bowden Street and Toplift. As part of the 191-195 Bowden Street V8 housing project, V8 is proposing an approximately 12,680 square foot 4-story building to contain residential units on floors 2 to 4, totaling approximately 16 bedrooms. The project's proposed work in the right-of-way includes replacement of 171 linear feet of concrete sidewalk in Toplift Street. And approximately 122 linear feet of concrete sidewalk in Bowden Street. Installation of 2 new trees on Bowden Street with ground cover, benches, and bike racks, as well as new construction of a 15-foot wide driveway curb cut to a lower level parking area on Toplift Street. The closing of existing driveway curb cuts on Toplift and reconstructing the sidewalk to meet Boston standard. Vehicular access will be available to the building's garage and parking via new curb cut on Toplift, and as well as a modified curb cut on Bowden Street, expanding the existing curb cut to 24 feet. The project is proposing the resetting of granite curb and replacement of concrete sidewalks along Bowden Street and Toplift in accordance with Americans with Disabilities Act and City of Boston standards. The paving design continues the frontage zone and sidewalk adjacent to the north and west of the site. The sidewalk will be concrete, finished to meet the city standard. On Toplift, the concrete sidewalk ranges from 6 to 6.5 feet wide and 10 feet, approximately 10 feet on Bowden Street. We have reset the existing pedestrian ramp to align more with the crosswalk at the corner of Toplift and Bowden Street. The reciprocal ramp we found is ADA compliant. Due to the location of the pedestrian ramp and provide pedestrian access, we are proposing a easement across the property. Show that on the plan. These are some of the details of the street benching, ground cover, and street trees and bike racks for the area on Bowden Street. And this is the proposed easement for the realigned pedestrian ramp at the corner. Any questions?
For the, you're also, I apologize, adding a pair of benches in front of the tree pits, is that right? Might provide that.
Let's see. The benches are correct.
And will those be incorporated into an LMI?
I will have to defer to the landscape architect. Is Lisa on the line?
If not, we can just work through that between now and the public hearing.
Yes, I can check that, look into that.
Awesome. Jeffrey, thank you.
Sorry, Chief. Yes, these improvements will be covered by an LMI. Chung has actually requested that the project's attorney reach out to him to begin drafting that document.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
So Jeff, Jeff, just let me know who the attorney is and I'll connect you.
Will do.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I guess Todd or Robbie?
Yes. We're all set, other than that.
Okay. Any members of the public?
I see none.
All right, Jeffrey, between now and the public hearing, just coordinate or have the attorney coordinate with Chong Liu. That'd be great. And is 2 weeks enough time?
That's good for us.
Great. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our final item of new business is 25 Amory Street Connector, Center Street, Roxbury, granted location on a petition by Verizon New England Inc.
Good morning, can you hear me?
There we go.
Sorry, Ross, guess again.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Good morning, my name is Ross Billadu, representing Verizon New England. Verizon is looking to place some conduit in one new manhole along Amory Street with connections to Old Amory Street Connector, and Center Street. This is to rectify an illegal trespass which has been discovered with some development going on in that area. So we're looking to relocate a manhole and conduit along Amory Street to rectify that situation and allow the development to move forward.
And Ross, the relocated manhole is going to be where within that stretch?
About 10 feet from where it is existing today. Here, I can share my screen with you.
That'd be great.
Okay, can you see that?
We can.
Okay. The existing conduit, it comes over from Center Street here and heads south along this section here. So this is on private property, was placed back in the 40s with no easement or anything like that. The existing manhole is here. The new manhole is here. And the black dashed line represents the new pathway of 3 4-inch PVC conduits with city shadow. You can see our connections to either end, an existing and a new connection to a pole, which we have a connection to existing.
Any questions or comments on this?
Todd, have Ross coordinated this effort with Zach because the abutters are expecting someone to clean Amory Street. I want to make sure that the infusion of these conduits are not going to impact, compromise our ability or someone's ability to rebuild Amory Street.
Yes, we'll put Verizon in touch with Zach, and also the 25 Amory project.
Yeah, sure. Also got the interaction point between Amory and Center Street. I don't recall exactly what the geometry looks like, how that area. Okay, so make sure some thought is given to how the new conduits are going to come off Center Street onto Amory Street. Okay?
Yeah, that connection is kind of a no, I wouldn't say mystery. It's an interesting ownership situation through there.
Right. Okay. So this needs to be thought through a little bit carefully, and I'm sure the team can do it. That's all.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Awesome. Farah, thank you for raising that. Other questions or comments? Todd or Robbie?
We're all set with this.
All right. Any members of the public?
I see none.
Okay. Ross, does 2 weeks work for you?
Yes, it does.
Great. All right. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. That was our final item of new business. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Take care, all.